So I did it. I finally made a tier list. Why? Honestly, it just looked fun, and I like talking about this stuff and hearing opinions. Along with that, my fellow content creator Trife, who goes by Mafioso now, commonly did the tier list for the community on roughly a monthly basis. Seeing as to how he's moving away from UBG content, I figured I'd be the one to pick up the torch. I'll keep this intro quick and simple so you can jump right into the list. I'll start from worst to best and ordering them purely based on strength. Like, if I gave each style to a bunch of total noobs, who would start winning the fastest and why? I'm also aware of the fact that there's more balance changes to come sometime soon, but I still wanted to make this list so the community had something to work with, seeing as how the latest list is from over 5 months ago now. And finally, I will not be including shinies in this list since they're just reskins of already existing styles. Let's just get into it. 24. Turtle. Sitting at the very bottom of the list as the worst style in the game, I have to go with Turtle. While this style holds a special place in my heart, considering it was one of the first styles I truly grinded for its titles and gameplay loop, I can't in good conscience actually tell you it's good. While it sports the toughest block in the game and has above average block damage, those are the only two things it has going for it. Its damage is terrible, it has the worst dashes in the game, super slow punches, and deals some of the lowest ultimate damage alongside White Ash. You're never going to be able to outswing or outspeed your opponents. You have to rely on raw prediction and perfect dodges to stay in the game. While you can certainly tank quite a lot, you're not invincible, and this style falls totally flat if you're fighting anybody that knows how to dodge and counter. At 23rd is Ippo. I'm sorry if you guys don't like this take, but let me explain. As Ippo, you're a hardcore infighter that can't move backward. You rely entirely on your ability to hold pressure and consistently keep someone's block low. Then, when it's time to deal some damage, you rev up your Dempsey roll and hit them with a huge string of damage. Sounds great, right? So, what's the issue? The Dempsey roll never lands, ever. It has too many ways to be countered and dealt with, and frankly, none of those methods are even that hard. Every person you fight that's seen Ippo before will just walk backwards, dodge your first Dempsey swing, or feint to knock you out of the roll. Seriously, go try Ippo right now against someone that isn't brand new and tell me I'm wrong. Unless they somehow mess up, you're never landing your best damage tool, and all of Ippo's normal stats are average at best. If you never bother with the Dempsey roll, you're just using a worse basic, and I honestly stand by that. At 22 is Kimura. As I'm sure you were waiting for, Kimura sits way down here too. The only reason it's even remotely higher than being the worst is from how much it's been stat padded. When I say that, I mean that its base characteristics like damage have just been slowly risen over time to compensate for how useless its gimmick is. Like, oh wow, the opponent can walk slower, that means I'm totally gonna win now. Like, sorry, but this style's slowness gimmick still stinks and will hopefully be reworked in the future. Your swings are still slow and deal some crummy block damage, so Kimura remains an uninteresting puddle that gets some water just dumped into it. 21 is Hammer. Hammer, certainly a bit controversial and still pretty mid too. Hammer's main characteristic alongside just being a brawler is the body blow, an ability that rips the opponent's block away and hits you for some scary damage. However, the controversy stems from how janky and buggy the body blow actually is. If either you or the opponent has high ping, the body blow has a way higher chance of landing due to the weird dodge timing. However, if the opposite is the case, you're never going to actually land the attack on someone who's blocking. Most players can dodge the swing with relative ease if they know the counterplay. This style works until that happens, in which case it really becomes nothing special, save for maybe having better damage. Number 20, Basic. It's, well, basic. The 4 styles under this one aren't exactly worse versions of Basic, but they have gimmicks that eventually become an actual detriment to the style. Basic just focuses on the core elements of gameplay, swinging, blocking, and dodging. Because of that, it has no discernible weakness, quote unquote, but isn't too great at anything either, which just makes it a well-rounded option. That being said, I place Basic lower on the list simply because every other style can do its job better as long as you can master its special gameplay archetype. Number 19 is Trickster. While Trickster sounds pretty good on paper, it's really not the best in practice. Your dashes are really good and quick, but the downside is that every other aspect of Trickster kinda sucks. Your swings are really easy to see coming, and even if you do land a hit, your block damage and base damage are definitely a bit lacking. Not only that, but since your entire gimmick is jumping around in circles, you're going to drain your stamina before you can even land more than a few hits. The style can definitely be stronger if you stick to landing perfect dodges and are precise with counters, so it's not totally useless, but there are definitely styles that perform its job much better. At number 18, we have Bullet. I was initially going to put Bullet higher, but decided to drag it down just a little. While a typical player might not see Bullet very often in casual games, it can be a genuinely scary style in the right hands. Your attacks are fast and deal good damage, along with a heavy attack that deals an insane level of counter damage. Unfortunately, its secondary gimmick, the Bullet Jab, is very rarely seen. While it's supposed to let a punch fire instantly following a dodge, the window to launch this quick jab is so obscenely small that you might only see it used once a game, if even at all. The style does have potential, but making use of its kit requires a lot of effort and practice, whereas once again, other styles can perform this gimmick with more reliability and safety. Number 17 is Iron Fist. Iron Fist is a brutal damage dealer with some of the best potential snowballing in the game. Its heavy attacks are slow, but hit so brutally and strongly that it damages itself in the process. Your light attacks aren't nearly as powerful as your heavy attacks are, so players will definitely be making riskier plays with them. Those heavies also have some counter resistance, which is solid, but this style is mostly held back by how poor its M1 attacks are pretty much across the board. While the style is a heavy hitter, having your primary gimmick actively deplete your own health with little gain can cause a lot of annoyance. However, Iron Fist has the strongest ultimate in the game, essentially forcing its opponent to play with 2 lives instead of 3, so underestimating a veteran Iron Fist player is definitely not advised. If they land a few consecutive heavy attacks on you, the game might be over fast. Number 16 is Corkscrew. Corkscrew has been one of those styles that it feels like it kind of jumps up and down on the tier list after every major patch. Right now, I think it's comfortably sitting in this spot as not being among the worst, but not nearly among the best either. Its primary gimmick is a passive, meaning an ability you don't even have to activate to use. The style regenerates both its block and healable health at a much faster rate than any other style in the game, letting it recover and get back into the fight really quickly. This gimmick is quite strong in my opinion, letting it preserve its health much longer than someone would expect. Unfortunately, it's kind of lacking elsewhere. Its block damage isn't anything special, but its heavy attack is dangerous and strong if used properly. Using an ultimate on the style early is usually not advised, as its healing rate will usually negate everything your opponent just tried to do to you. Similarly to Turtle, Corkscrew does not have much in offense, but has an amazing defense with less weaknesses, essentially just making it a better version of Turtle in my eyes. At number 15, we have Smash. A lot of people will tell you that Smash is kind of just a direct upgrade from Basic, but I don't really agree. I feel like a lot of people tell you any style is just better Basic and then list like 5 or 6 different things about it. Smash is definitely where we start to creep into more reliable styles, as you'll generally perform pretty well with Smash regardless of your skill level. The Smash Punch is easily the best of its kit, and deals some of the best block damage for an M2 in the game right now, which can make getting leads extremely easy when put to proper use. Though it has slightly below average dashes as well, Smash mostly suffers from having generally easy to see swings and really poor anti-heal. Landing the Smash Punch consistently is almost required to get anywhere, which will take a lot of time and effort. Though I don't consider the style bad, Smash sits here due to how hard you might have to actually work or mind game to keep your damage output high. Number 14, we have Shotgun. Shotgun has been notorious for seeming super good, but not actually living up to that standard. For quite some time, some of its best methods of damage output were extremely easy to dodge and get around, forcing it to rely on its fast but incredibly weak light attacks. Recently, the double barrage has finally been fixed to allow for one consistent string of damage that just can't be weaved through by mashing space. Going along with that, Shotgun has a very high level of versatility, meaning it doesn't just have to do one thing over and over. With 2 distinct modes and a very unique heavy attack, Shotgun has amazing potential for mix-up and damage output if it's used properly. New players will struggle a lot with this style considering how much it has going on, which is what still makes me plop it in the bottom half of the list, but getting around that learning curve and understanding Shotgun's fundamentals will eventually allow anyone to get around its weaknesses, like having a weaker block and taking in more counter damage. At number 13, we have Hands Low. Previously a part of the game's meta for quite some time, Hands Low has dropped into a much more manageable state. Primarily dealing damage with counters, you have to kind of actually know what you're doing to see progress. With the much needed nerf to its block damage and base damage, you're not going to be getting much off of perfect dodges or normal hits, but because of how commonly counters can happen with this style, I wouldn't say that the style is lacking by any standard. Personally, I think it's entirely relevant to the game's meta and shouldn't be looked down upon, but definitely has some exploitable weaknesses that will require time and effort for a new player to get used to. Sitting perfectly in the middle of the pack at 12, we have Hitman. Hitman hasn't changed too heavily as of late besides losing its ability to whiff counter, and its general gameplay loop has been the same since UBG's release. While your swings are powerful and can hit from a very long range, every attack comes from the same side and can therefore be perfect dodged pretty easily. Your dashes and block are noticeably poor, but Hitman isn't lacking in block damage or base damage at all. The style is generally known for having some of the strongest or most well-rounded attacks in the game, which can make it nearly impossible to deal with against a player who knows how to properly space and counter with it. However, since it has such obvious and notable pros and cons, I think the style fits perfectly right in the middle. At number 11, we have Freedom. Getting into the upper half of the list now, Freedom is a bit all over the place. Some will tell you it's the best in the game, while others will tell you it should be sitting at the bottom with Turtle. I think the style is reliable and has a lot of capabilities once you understand how it works and how to use each mode. I kind of tend to call it the potential style of the game because of how many people you'll see glazing it only for them to never even use it. Freedom's skill floor and skill ceiling are both quite high, but a lot of the style's viability depends entirely on how you choose to play it. You can constantly space people with flicker mode or be aggressive with smash mode, or just be a totally passive loser and fish for whirlwind dodges. Generally though, I place the style higher on the list because figuring out the mechanic isn't actually as hard as people will tell you. You can basically just stat check your opponents with the right string of attacks and rack up damage really fast with some well-timed mode switches. The major reason Freedom isn't any higher is just because of how easy it is for Freedom to lose a lead. Getting hit with just a couple swings can instantly even the game when you just spend the past 5 minutes getting an advantage. While this can be frustrating, the most experienced freedoms would tell you this becomes less of a problem the more you dedicate yourself to the style. At number 10, we have Long Guard. Long Guard is fast, reliable, and doesn't really crumble under pressure. Being the poster child of outboxing, Long Guard is easily one of the best styles to get simple, easy spacing with little room for being contested by your opponent. While its swings generally lack damage in all forms, the style is pretty insanely good at keeping itself safe and out of range. With its block being average as well as its dashes, it doesn't really lack in any other category. The reason it's in position 10 is simply because of that damage output. You need to do a lot to get a little. However, proper plays with your heavy swings and whiff counters can mitigate that issue pretty quickly. It's definitely a style that requires a brainstem in order to play to its fullest potential, but the ability to consistently counter, dodge, and keep itself out of danger makes it definitely deserve this placement. At number 9, we have White Ash. This might be another style that I'm kinda contested on, but I genuinely think White Ash is pretty damn good. The only thing it truly lacks in is defense, sporting a generally weaker block that's supposed to get weaker every time you get knocked down, though this actually isn't the case right now due to a bug. Having the most unique ultimate in the game, White Ash can actually stack up damage on an opponent really fast with those, plus the power of its bird mode. Burnt can be extremely oppressive and scary, but can also be the downfall of the style if too many misplays are made in a row. White Ash also isn't placed any higher than this because it can have a pretty tough time in higher tier play. Most players won't fall for the ultimate's gimmick, and losing that form of damage can turn things into more of a struggle. Even though it only has 70 health per stock, White Ash does have 4 stocks, which can theoretically prolong its lifespan and let it get more of its abilities to bring the game from a potential loss. White Ash can be the comeback king in the right circumstances, but not having that full reliability with his ultimate makes it impossible for me to tier it any better. At number 8, we have Chronos. Ironically, Chronos can suffer the same issue as White Ash. Its focus mode can be inconsistent and unreliable against better or smarter players. Chronos and White Ash are honestly pretty interchangeable because I see their gimmick as being similar. You activate an ability that insanely raises your offense at the cost of all of your defense. Chronos' damage output without focus is obviously a lot lower, but its counter damage and ability to dodge frequently can give it a solid advantage when games get more dire. Able to mind game and force interactions by emoting, Chronos is really good at controlling the speed of gameplay and the match in general. Focus is debatably more powerful than White Ash's burn mode, which is what made me decide to put it one number higher for now, and Focus is also stronger and ever so slightly more reliable with the recent changes to its swing speed and base damage. At number 7, we have Counter. Counter is just a solid choice, period. Counters happen so often in this game that Counter can get a lead solely off of getting a few exchanges in a row. Its stats are basically all a little lower than average, but nowhere near enough to denounce the style from being viable. While not entirely meta, this is the first style that can get a lot off of just, playing normally. It gets a very high reward for mind games and reading opponents, which becomes seriously important as you climb the ranks. Its swings aren't that slow, and neither are its dashes, so it has little issue with offense or defense. You could begin to slip if your opponent perfect dodges you consistently, but you can basically say this for any other style too. Overall, there's not much to say aside from the fact that Counter is just a viable option that you can't really go wrong with. At number 6, we have Charge. Charge is a bit of a hot topic right now, but its strength in the current meta is undeniable. Being a brutal infighter with strong swings, lacking a backdash really doesn't matter to it. It can rack up damage immensely quick with a few well-placed swings and can gain the lead fast if you're unprepared or facing it with a style that has a weaker block. However, the main thing that gives Charge such power is its ability, Stampede. Stampede being able to drain stamina and cut through blocks relatively quickly can be a horrifying combo, because if timed correctly, you can whittle an opponent down to having 0 stamina and hit them with heavy attacks for free. Charge is the only style that completely strips an opponent of power and turns them into a punching bag for a few seconds, which you can imagine is pretty goddamn good. Stampede and Charge's slower swings are definitely escapable, but getting into one bad interaction with Charge right now just basically means the game is over. In number 5, we have Switch Hit. This shouldn't come as too major of a surprise to anyone, honestly, because its powers basically entirely shake up the game's normal systems. Being able to switch the hand that punches on command, as well as having 4 different kinds of punches, makes it a mix-up god, shutting down most PD fishers unless they are truly dedicated to their craft of not actually playing the game. On top of that, Static can not only completely deny an opponent's perfect dodge, but activating the ability in neutral prevents them from doing said dodges at all. As you can imagine, this is an insane shift when you're fighting in higher tier matches when perfect dodges can mean the difference between life and death. The only thing Switch Hit really lacks in is dashing, because they're some of the worst in the game, but this is a very minor disadvantage when you have so much else going for you. Overall, Switch Hit is fantastic and has great mix-up, great damage output, and is able to completely deny any opponent's ability to do the same in return. Switch Hits who know how to space and counter opponents might genuinely be uncontested, but it's pretty ironic that I haven't fought a Switch Hit in public servers in over a month. I guess it just gets boring to play. At number 4, we have Wolf. Wolf is another style that is either really high or really low on people's lists, and for me, it's really high. Wolf is able to confirm so much damage off of the proper string of attacks, and while having a slightly higher skill floor, the skill ceiling can be reached pretty quickly. Another pro at mix-up, Wolf may struggle with damage on occasion and will fall flat if you're too predictable of a player. However, Wolf veterans will easily display the true power of the style and can absolutely wipe you, along with consistently blowing your block to smithereens. While Wolf does insanely well against styles with weaker blocks, it still does amazing in other matchups, able to string moves together like no other style to maintain pressure, and it will rack up damage if you fall for its tricks one too many times. Having such strong heavies that boast amazing block damage is a really good tool, and furthermore, being able to accurately read and predict opponents while using Wolf will let you consistently land the White Fang. Another big factor with Wolf, while seemingly minor, is how good it is at confirming damage, specifically damage dealt after an early ultimate, with how bizarre and fast its heavy swings are. If this happens to you in a game against a smart Wolf, you can kiss your odds of winning goodbye. Finally, we've reached the top 3. I highly doubt these will come as a surprise to anyone, but in position 3 we have Hawk. Hawk is an absolute god at counterpunches, damage output, and block destruction. As if that wasn't enough, the swayback allows it to dodge any punch without much trouble so it can resume beating the absolute shit out of you. One good interaction can bring Hawk from a losing state into a winning one, and as long as you can keep your meter in Bloodlust or Ecstasy, you're going to be a force to be reckoned with at close quarters. While it doesn't have a good block, having the swayback and normal dodges don't really make this an issue, especially with how little having a disadvantage in health will matter to a good Hawk. New users to the style might tell you it stinks because, I fall for feint all the time and my block is bad, so I die. But trust me, this is the snowballer of the game. And can you believe it used to have some of the best anti-heal in the game? Hawk can be dealt with by dodging and countering properly, since its block can't really take it, but you need to get a good lead going before you try for more risky plays. In position 2, Slugger takes the podium. Slugger is primarily just amazing at damage output, with its heavy being one of the strongest in the game when thrown outside of a perfect dodge. While its block and dashes aren't the best, its sheer strength with all of its swings will cause your health bar to crumble if you have no block. Furthermore, its heavy swing is a charged attack, meaning it can be released early for a faster but weaker swing. Rather than a disadvantage, this is its best tool, as the weaker swing is indistinguishable from the stronger attack. Consistently mixing up when you're swinging that attack, along with mixing in your normal swings, will be unbelievably deadly no matter what style you're fighting against. And of course, it still does absolutely insane damage in a perfect dodge, despite the damage being capped when you swing that way. Encountering a Slugger with good game sense and experience with the style is borderline unbeatable. And so, we come to the best style in the game, which is Ghost. If you don't think Ghost is at least top 3, then you and I aren't playing the same game. Like, just flat out. The style can do basically anything. It has great range, solid damage, and fast swings. The primary argument for any weakness is the direction of its attacks, which, like Hitman, always come from the same directions, and its block is also kind of poor. But one single thing mitigates any weakness Ghost has, and it's called the Ghost Jab. The Ghost Jab is a completely unreactable swing that can be thrown at any moment, simply by pressing the button when it's charged, and this ability solves literally any issue. Getting spaced? Ghost Jab. Got countered by a heavy? Just Ghost Jab right after. Swung an ult early? Ghost Jab right after again for some free anti-heal. As long as the Ghost Jab is up, you will win every single interaction, and it requires absolutely no skill to do so. It's a stupid, utterly brain-dead ability, and fighting Ghost isn't even fun or interesting. If you're fighting it, you just constantly have to try and bait out the punch that makes Ghost completely unapproachable. Can you tell I'm sick of Ghost? Because I don't know about you, but I hate it, and I hate this ability. It takes absolutely no effort to press the button and just have it solve literally whatever you're dealing with. You cannot convince me that this style takes skill with how it currently works, and it's a free win at any skill level. If you want people to hate you while you win every match, then by all means, get Ghost. And with that, our tier list has concluded for now. Here's a full picture of it so you can show it to your friends and maybe make fun of me or also agree with me. As always, I'm happy to actually discuss what you guys think, either in the comments or in my Discord server, link below. So don't feel scared to weigh in on the conversation. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I won't keep you here any longer than I have to. I'll catch you on the flip side, and I'll see you next time. Peace!